Alrighty, and we will be reading to Genesis 21 to Genesis 23. Okay. At the last one, we talk about the destruction of Sodom and and Gomorrah and showing some story about Lot's family and how that go. So let's get, and after that, we'll read the notes and do prayer too. Genesis 21, the birth of Isaac. Now the Lord was glorious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age. At the very time God had promised him, Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. And she added, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. Hagar and Ishmael sent away. The child grew and was wounded, and on the day Isaac was warned. Abraham held a great feast, but Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had born to Abraham was mocking. And she said to Abraham, get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac. To him, do not be so distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. I will make the son of the slave into a nation, also because he is your offspring. Early the next morning, Abraham took some food and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He set them on her shoulders, and then sent her off with the boy. She went on her way and wandered in the desert of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went off and sat down about a bow shot away, for she thought, I cannot watch the boy die. And as she sat there, she began to sob. God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said, to her, What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies. There, lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. She went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy. As he grew up, he lived in the desert and became an archer while he was living in the desert of Paran. His mother got a wife for him from Egypt. the tree at Beersheba. At that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, said to Abraham, God is with you in everything you do. Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me or my children or my descendants. So to me, and the country where you now reside as a stranger, the same kindness I have shown to you. Abraham said, I swear it. Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech servants had seized, but Abimelech said, I don't know who has done this. You did not tell me, and I heard about it only today. So Abraham brought sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech. And the two men made a treaty. Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock, and Abimelech asked Abraham, what is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs you have set apart by themselves? He replied, accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well. So that place was called Beersheba, because the two men swore an oath where after the treaty had been made at Beersheba. Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, returned to the land of the Palestinians. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the eternal God. Abraham stayed in the land of the Palestinians for a long time. Genesis 22. Abraham tested. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am. He replied. Then God said, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain. I will show you. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him offering. He set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife as the two of them were on together. Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, Father? Yes, my son. Abraham replied, the fire and wood are here. Isaac said, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Abraham answered, God himself will provide a lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And the two of them went on together. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham, here I am. He replied, do not lay a hand on the boy. He said, do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son, So Abraham called that place, the Lord will provide, and to this day it is said, on the mountain of the Lord it will be provided. The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed me. Then Abraham returned to his servants, and they set off together for Beersheba, and Abraham stayed in Beersheba. Noah's sons. Sometime later, Abraham was told, Milcah is also a mother. She has borne sons to your brother Nuhu. Use the firstborn Buz, his brother, Kemuel, the father of Aram, Kis, his Hazo, Perdash, Judlap, and Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. Milcah bore these 8 sons to Abraham's brother Nehu, his Cubian, whose name was Reumah. Also had sons Timah, Gulam, Tuhas, and Milcah. Genesis 23, the death of Sarah. Sarah lived to be 127 years old. She died at Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went to mourn for Sarah and to weep over her. Then Abraham rose from beside his dead wife and spoke to the Hittites. He said, I am a foreigner and stranger among you. Sell me some property for a burial site. Here so I am bury my dead. The Hittites replied to Abraham, So listen to us. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will refuse you his tomb for burying your dead. Then Abraham rose and bowed down before the people of the land, the Hittites. He said to them, If you are willing to let me bury my dead, then listen to me and intercede with Imran, son of Zuhal, on my behalf, so he will sell me the sell me the cave of Machpelah, which belongs to him and is at the end of his field. Ask him to sell it to me for the full price as a burial site among you. Upon the Hittite was sitting among his people, and he replied to Abraham in the hearing of all the Hittites who had come to the gate of his city. No, my lord, he said, listen to me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that is in it. I give it to you in the presence of my people. Bury your dead. Again, Abraham bowed down before the people of the land, and he said to Abraham in their hearing, listen to me. If you will, I will pay the price of the field. Accept it from me so I can bury my dead there. Abraham answered Abraham, listen to me, my lord. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver, but what is that between you and me? Bury your dead. Abraham agreed to Abraham's terms and weighed out for him the price he had named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver, according to the weight current among the merchants. So Abraham's field in Machpelah near Mamre, both the field and the cave in it, and all the trees within the borders of the field was deeded to Abraham as his property in the presence of all the Hittites who had come to the gate of the city. Afterward, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre, which is at Hebron in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave in it were deeded to Abraham by the Hittites as a burial site. And thank you for reminding us that reminding the birth of Isaac and how you tested Abraham. Sometimes these days you will be tested by God Himself. Always be tested by God. And I hope these people will be tested by God, because if we want to follow Him forever, then God the Father will test us if we can do that journey forever. I just hope. In name of Jesus, amen. Yeah. Okay. I hope you learned something new from that one. I just hope. Okay, let's start reading the notes. Genesis 21, verse 1 through 7. Who could have believed that Abraham would have a son at 100 years of age and live to raise him to adulthood? But doing the impossible is everyday business. For God, our big problems won't seem so impossible if we let God handle them. If we let God handle them. Genesis 21 verse 7. After repeated promises, a visit by two angels, and the appearance of the Lord himself, Sarah finally cried out with surprise and joy at the birth of her son. Because of her doubt, worry, and fear, she had fortified the peace she could have felt in God's wonderful promise to her. The way to bring peace to a troubled heart is to focus on God's promises. Trust Him to do what He says. Yep. Always trust Him what He says. Genesis 21 verse 18. What happened to Ishmael, and who are his descendants? Ishmael became the ancestor of a large tribe or nation. The Ishmaelites were nomads living in the desert of Paran, south of Israel. One of Ishmael's daughters married Ishmael's nephew. Genesis 28 verse 9. The Bible pictures the Ishmaelites as hostile to Israel and to God. Psalm 83 verse 5 through 6. Genesis 21 verse 31. Beersheba, the southernmost city of Israel, lay on the edge of a vast wilderness that stretched as far as Egypt to the southwest and Mount Sinai to the south. The area described as being from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south was often used to describe the traditional burials of the promised land. 2 Samuel 17 verse 11, 2 Chronicles 30 verse 5. Beersheba's southern location and the presence of several wells in the area may explain why Abraham settled there. Beersheba was also the home of Isaac, Abraham's son. Genesis 22 verse 1. God tested Abraham not to trip him up and watch him fall, but to deepen his capacity to obey God and those to develop his character, just as fire refines ore to extract precious metals. God refines us through difficult circumstances. When we are tested, we can complain, or we can try to see how God is stretching us to develop in us the character necessary to be His followers. Genesis 22 verse 3. That morning, Abraham began one of the greatest acts of obedience in recorded history. He traveled between 50 and 60 miles to Mount Moriah, near the site of Jerusalem. Over the years, he had learned many tough lessons about the importance of obeying God. This time, his obedience was perfect and complete. Obeying God is often a struggle because it may mean giving up something we truly want. We should not expect our obedience to God to be easy or to come naturally. Rather, it is often our struggle to obey that drive us to pray more and depend on Him. Genesis 22 verse 6. We don't know how Abraham carried the fire. Perhaps he carried live coals or a flint to start a fire. Genesis 22, verse 7 through 8. Why did God ask Abraham to perform human sacrifice? It wasn't unusual for pagan nations to practice human sacrifice, but God would later condemn this as a terrible sin. Leviticus 20 verse 1 through 5. God did not want Isaac to die, but he wanted Abraham to sacrifice Isaac in his heart, so it would be clear that Abraham loved God more than he loved his promise, and long-awaited son. God was testing Abraham. The purpose of testing is to strengthen our character and deepen our commitment to God and His perfect timing through this difficult experience. Abraham strengthened his commitment, obey God. He also learned about God's ability to provide. Genesis 22, verse 12. It is difficult to let go of what we deeply love. What could be more proper than to love your only child? Yet when we do give to God what He asks, he returns to us far more than we could dream. The spiritual benefits of His blessings far outweigh our sacrifices. Have you withheld your love, your children, or your time from Him? Surrender them to Him and trust Him to provide. Genesis 22, verse 8. Genesis 22, verse 13. Notice the parallel between the lamb offered on the altar as a substitute for Isaac and Christ offered on the cross as a substitute for us. Whereas God stopped Abraham from sacrificing his son, God did not spare his own son Jesus from dying on the cross. If Jesus had lived, the rest of humankind would have if Jesus had lived, the rest of humankind would have died. God sent His only Son to die for us so that we could be spared from the eternal death we deserve and instead receive eternal life. John 3 verse 16. Genesis 22 verse 15 through 18. Abraham received abundant blessings because he listened to God and complied with His instructions. God promised to give Abraham's descendants the ability to conquer their enemies. In addition, God promised Abraham children and grandchildren who would in turn bless the whole earth. People's lives would be changed as a result of knowing of the faith of Abraham and his descendants. We often think of blessings as gifts that we will enjoy, but when God blesses us, He wants us to let His blessings overflow to others today and into eternally. Genesis 23, verse 1 through 4. In Abraham's day, death, and burial was stepped in the ritual and traditions, failing to honor a dead person demonstrates the greatest possible lack of respect. And a proper burial was equivalent of a curse. Mourning was an essential part of the death the death ritual. Friends and relatives would cry loudly for the whole neighbor to hear because there were no funeral homes or undertakers. These same friends and relatives would help prepare the body for burial, which usually would take place on the same day because of the warm climate. Genesis 23, verse 4 through 6. Abraham was in a foreign land looking for a place to bury his wife. Strangers offered to help him because he was a mighty prince, and they respected him. Although Abraham had not put down roots in the area. Genesis 23, verse 1 through 4. In Abraham's day, death and burial was steeped in ritual and traditions. Failing to honor a dead person demonstrated the greatest possible lack of respect, and improper burial was the equivalent of a curse. Mourning is an essential part of the death ritual. Friends and relatives would cry loudly for the whole neighborhood to hear because these were no funeral homes or undertakers. These same friends and relatives would help prepare the body for burial, which usually would take place on the same day because of the warm climate. Genesis 23, verse 4 through 6. Abraham was in a foreign land looking for a place to bury his wife. Strangers offered to help him because he was a mighty prince, and they respected him. Although Abraham had not put down the roots in the area, his reputation was above reproach. Those who invest their time and money in serving God often earn a pleasant return on their investment, a good reputation, and the respect others. Genesis 23, verse 10 through 16. The polite interchange between Abraham and Abraham was typical of bargaining at that time. Abraham grudgingly offered to give his land to Abraham. At no charge, Abraham insisted on paying for it. Abraham privately mentioned the price, but said in effect that it wasn't appointed. Abraham paid the 400 shekels of silver. Both men knew what was going on as they went through the bargaining progress. If Abraham had accepted the land as a gift when it was offered, he would have insulted Abraham, who then would have rescinded his offer. Many Middle Eastern shopkeepers still follow this bargaining ritual with their customs. Genesis 23, verse 16. 400 shekels of silver was an outrageous price for the price of property Abraham bought. The Hittites weren't thrilled about for Israel buying the property, so Abraham had little bargaining leverage. The custom of the days was to ask for double the fair market value of the land for expecting the buyer to offer half the started price. Abraham, however, did not bargain. He simply paid the initial price. He was not trying to take anything he did not gain fairly. Even though God had promised the land to Abraham, he did not just take it away from Abraham. Well, we get to hear how Abraham got tested by God, and Abraham almost sacrificed Isaac, but an angel of the Lord stopped him, and instead he sacrificed a ram for a sacrifice a ram instead. And yeah, that's basically all of it. But the birth of Isaac was something like how can an old man how can an older woman give birth to a baby? Because I never seen that, but if that is done, then yeah. But don't believe everything. Don't believe everything's impossible, because with God, everything's possible. But with man, everything is impossible, because everything's impossible. Don't believe in man, but trust in God and believe in Him. He is the one who makes things all possible. Man just make things even more difficult or just impossible to do with man. Because if we do with man, that's impossible. But with God, everything is possible. So believe in Him and trust in Him. Always trust in Him. Always. Have a good day. And see ya. And if you're enjoying this so far, if you want to subscribe, then do it. But it's fine with me if you subscribe. So, goodbye.